charges and prepare for disasters ahead of time by following safety guidelines.
That is correct. You can receive real-time safety information through the Disaster Safety Information mobile app 안전 디딤돌.
Thank you for all the great information. Remember, your safety is everyone's safety. This campaign is brought to you by BEFM 부산 영어방송.
The time is now 7 o'clock.
Festival 10월, Workations, Global Hub City. Busan City is trying to attract visitors across different fields. But having a metropolitan city be a tourist hotspot is kind of this delicate balance of having its residents go about their day-to-day life, but also attracting those out-of-towners. It requires both regulation to keep daily life going and easing some of these regulations to inject new life into the city's economy. So it is a tricky balancing act, but one that must be done to keep this tourism momentum going in our city. I'm Catherine. This is Morning Wave in Busan on Monday, October 21st on BEFM 부산 영어 방송. Good morning, Wavers. I hope you had a good weekend. I had a fantastic one, and I'm ready to hit the pavement, running today. It's Monday and I have all this energy that's been pent up, and I hope you're ready to begin our Monday morning together. So what do we want? We all want more tourists in the city. We really do, especially when it comes to stimulating the local businesses here. But at the same time, we don't want visitors getting in the way of our commute or our living spaces. Let's be honest, right? A prime example of this is shared housing, commonly represented by the platform Airbnb thing, that one. But here's the thing about these house sharing platforms in urban areas. It is illegal, meaning not legal, for South Korean nationals to rent these homes under the Tourism Protection Act. So it's technically illegal. And you may be wondering how that's possible and how you're able to rent that unit, or were able to rent that unit during your last vacation. But technically, that is the law. At the same time, the reason why it's been so controversial. Well, now the government is easing regulations over such home sharing, allowing people in large cities to rent their home out to domestic visitors, with the pilot program going into effect in Seoul and Busan. And this goes along with the goal of easing workation visitors to Busan, as these travelers may have an easier time finding housing in desired areas. So hopefully this will provide that balance of, keeping both tourists and locals happy. So, of course, striking that good balance is so important. Now, we're going to get to our text topic, which is very much in tune with what we're talking about later on in hour number 2. So here we go. What Korean food do you miss when you go abroad? And assuming that you've never been abroad, what Korean food do you think you would really miss if you were to go abroad? Something that you can't live without. 자, 내가 해외에 나가면 그리운 또는 그리울 한국 음식은 Ooh, there's so many. I know many people will say I can't live without my kimchi for 7 days, or certain very distinctly Korean food that you would miss, if you were to go abroad. So let me know what your answers are. You can send them in to BFM's live stream, live chat on YouTube. So what you do is go to that platform, YouTube, type in BEFM or 부산 영어 방송 to find our channel, subscribe, log in, and chat away with our other waivers. Also available on your phone, pound 9050, shop 9050. That's going to cost you 100 won. The good news is you can also reach me for free through Kakao Talk. We have a Kakao Talk channel as well. Same thing. Type in BEFM or 부산 영어 방송 to find our channel. And you can text in your messages and photos as well. The ways you can listen to our program. So many different ways these days, right? 90.5, 103.3 FM on the radio. Also, like I said, we're streaming live on YouTube as we speak. You can listen anytime actually and watch again on that same platform at your leisure. Also, available two different apps. We have the BEFM app, also the Patbang app. So yes, different ways to listen to us. Looking ahead to our morning together. It's Monday, so what do we have for you? First up, we have a Joffrey coming in for hour number 1. And so he is a local professor, and he's going to be going into some fun facts and trivia, some really amazing topics. And then we have Showbiz Buzz with Michael. That's also, actually, did I say it backward? Yeah, he's coming up in hour number 2 today. And Michael Kang, you know him. He's our local kind of story of just musician doing so well. And he is going to bring in all the latest for entertainment news. And for our special interview. Okay, so have you seen all the 홍보 materials? We're having the man himself. He's going to be joining us. Chef Edward Lee will be joining us. Yes, that Edward Lee from the latest culinary class wars 흑백 요리사. Edward Lee. 우리 hour number 2, special interview. So he's going to be joining us. Stay tuned for that. But of course, we have much more, and I'll be back with today's headlines. It is now 7:06, and these are today's headlines. South Korean satellite captures image of North Korean troop movement to Russia. The National Intelligence Service, or NIS, has presented satellite photos as evidence of North Korea's troop deployment to Russia to support its war against Ukraine. President and PPP head to meet today amid First Lady's controversies. President Yoon Suk-yeol and People Power Party, or PPP chair Han Dong-hoon, are set to meet this afternoon at Yongsan at a time when Yoon and the ruling party seek to recover from various scandals and dropping approval numbers. SNU hospital workers announced strikes starting October 31st. Unionized workers at Seoul National University, or SNU Hospital, have decided to launch an indefinite walkout beginning on October 31st in protest of the government's healthcare reform and poor working conditions. First snow of the season observed out at Mount Seorak. The Korea National Park Service office at Mount Seorak said yesterday that it has observed the first snow of the season on Saturday at 7:30 p.m., which came down for some 12 hours. At least 87 killed in Gaza as UN warns nowhere is safe. Gaza's Hamas-run health ministry has said at least 87 people were killed and more than 40 injured in Israel's airstrike in northern Gaza on Saturday, local time. And these are today's headlines. Happy Monday.
Happy Monday.
Yes, Haley's in the studio with me, and we're going to get to our Busan updates, but not before I ask her our text topic, which is, so when you go abroad, I know you do travel, you love traveling, so what do you miss about Korean food, cuisine, side dishes, anything Korean?
국밥.
국밥. Oh.
And that's
What kind?
I know, and then I know every like household or every person has
Yes,
their
a different-
preferred form of 국밥.
Uh-huh.
Mine and for our home, it's actually 순대국밥.
Ooh.
Yeah, so I mean, I love 돼지국밥 too, but I always need that blood sausage, the 순대 in there. Yeah, and then you put the red sauce, which the name that I call it is Japanese based, so I can't really say 양념장, the red 양념장.
Oh, that's Japanese.
Well, 양념장 is but
that is?
that's
Oh, okay.
Japanese based.
Did
So
not
we
know.
don't. Yeah, it's not public radio appropriate, but yeah, I put like a huge spoonful of it. So good. My mouth is watering.
I know,
That's
I'm hungry
usually
right
the
now.
food I get right before I go abroad, so I have my like quota filled to get me
Yes.
going for the next few days, and then I usually get it after I come back too.
Oh, nice. Okay, so now that we're all hungry, we're going to jump into our updates. First, let's go over the damage from the heavy rain and winds. Oh my gosh, the winds this weekend.
Right. So very heavy rain and strong winds may
Yes.
batter the city over the weekend. And official records put the precipitation on Saturday at 22.1 millimeters. That's from the official observatory. However, the highest recorded rainfall was over double that in Kumjeonggu at 57.5 millimeters. And Busan Fire Agency received 21 reports, including multiple road floodings. The winds also led to a traffic sign falling down in Sasangu.
Yes.
Thankfully, it didn't injure anyone or fall over anything. However, that could have been very dangerous. Also, an exterior building material fell off of the building, and there were reports of signs flying about. Actually, right now is a very brief break from the rain, as rain is expected to start over again later in the afternoon, which you will cover, of course. But quite heavy rain is expected, and it's always a little bit more dangerous when we have heavy rain followed by another bout of heavy rain, because
Yes.
that means the ground is fairly weak already.
Indeed. So thanks for giving us a report on that. Next, a new Halal Food Certification Center has opened in Busan.
Right. So the Indonesia Halal Certification Support Center has opened at the Busan Export One Stop Center, and that's located within the Busan Economic Promotion Agency. So halal certification is given to food items that have abided by the Islamic dietary standards.
Yes.
And Indonesia, which is a country that has the biggest Muslim population in the world, they actually began requiring halal food certifications to imported foods and beverages. And this was Busan's preemptive move to get rid of this potential trade barrier that could come later on.
Yes.
And Indonesia is actually going to consistently raise its standards on halal, not only covering food, but also to cosmetics in 2029 and pharmaceutical products as well.
Oh, so this is important to note because Indonesia is an important trade partner for Korea. South Korea.
Right. So this is, of course, most importantly, a matter of cultural respect, but also a huge economic issue as well. So for Busan, Indonesia is Busan's 12th biggest trading partner at $398 million worth of exports last year.
Yes.
Not only that, this is a country with a huge growth potential because it has the fourth largest population in the world, and their population is extremely young. So until now, all halal certification centers had been in Seoul. So local companies had a hard time with the process.
I see.
But with this center opening up, hopefully that can expedite things.
Yes, indeed. All right, our next story is about another area with potential for growth, and I'm talking about hot springs like 온천.
Oncheon,
Yes.
right? And I think yesterday, especially because it was so cold all of a sudden, I was like, you know, it sounds great, just like a hot bath.
Yes.
So this is actually a classic field in Busan that's trying to make a comeback. So previously, hot springs in Busan, they were a huge attraction, and I'm talking about like Silla dynasty times, like back. So Dongdae and even Haeundae.
Sure.
This is apparently where the kings of Silla dynasty came to bathe, and it was even a huge attraction internationally with Japanese travelers going as far back as the Joseon era. And then the thing is, though, with a huge housing boom, fast forward to the 1970s, these hot springs had to give way to apartment developments.
Right.
However, the city is trying to bring the tourism resource back with the goal of getting a hot spring city destination designation, which is something that's given by the Interior Minister. So in order to do that, though, it has to meet a certain set of criteria, including water quality, but also other tourism efforts like festivals, tourism infrastructure, and potential for contribution to the local economy.
Sure.
So to that end, the City Council held a discussion forum on this last week, and participants there agreed that the city needed kind of a unique edge to change the image of hot spring tours in Korea that's kind of associated with like nightlife, but also something that's family friendly, and also tying this to other tourism resources in Busan City.
Ah, yes. So thanks for letting us know about, the latest in Oncheon. Moving on, though, there was a short but terrifying incident at an amusement park in Busan over the weekend.
You've covered this issue several times in
Yes.
Cats Pick Old Hot Clips, but it happened right in our backyard.
Ooh,
a roller
what happened?
Coaster stopped in the middle of its tracks for about 5 minutes at an amusement park in Kijang. So this happened Friday morning around 11:10. The roller coaster Giant Digger stopped mid-track and it had riders on board. Thankfully, though, it stopped on a relatively flat part of the track, so they weren't like going up or coming down. But of course, it was very worrisome. It was anxious very stressful for the riders. So the theme park explained that something triggered its safety system and the system automatically stopped the roller coaster.
Okay.
The system said that something was on the tracks, but the officials didn't find anything. So the park employees explained that because, they take safety very seriously, the triggers are incredibly sensitive. So
Okay.
something as small as perhaps like a leaf flowing by could have triggered it, but they operated the ride normally and the passengers got off safely.
Okay, definitely good news, but still nerve-wracking
Right,
if
right.
you're on the ride, right? Well, thank you for the updates, Haley. Now back to you, the waivers. We're talking about food. It's all about food today. So what Korean food do you miss when you go abroad, or would you miss, assuming that, you're looking forward to going abroad? What would you miss? There's so many good choices. 그리워할 한국 음식 해외 갈 때 무엇인지? That's what we're discussing. For now, though, let's get to your traffic and weather. It's now time for your traffic and weather at 7:16 on this Monday morning. It is looking kind of congested right now on Beonyeong between Suyong Overpass and the Wondong ramp, actually in both directions. It's backed up on Chungjangdaero from pier number 3 to pier number 4 to pier number 3 right now. Also slow on the Dongso overpass from Hwangyang ramp to the old Kaegeum toll gate. Currently, it is 19 degrees Celsius under cloudy skies. The rain is forecast starting in the afternoon, as Haley mentioned, with the daytime high, it's going to go up to 24 today. Looking at the weather across the country, it's going to be cloudy across the nation with rain forecast in the southern regions, expected to come down quite heavily for the next 2 days. So enjoy the reprieve as we have it right now. This was your traffic and weather.
Are you an early bird? Are you up to date on the news? Are you a trendsetter? For all of the biggest issues from Busan to the world and useful information you need, right here on Morning Wave in Busan.
It is now time for News Digest. So with Haley still in the studio with me, we're going to go over our first story. South Korean intelligence confirmed that North Korea has indeed sent troops to the war in Ukraine?
Right. So the National Intelligence Service, or the NIS, said that it has confirmed North Korea's troop deployment to Ukraine in order to assist Russia. So the intel agency said that it spotted some 1,500 special forces operatives being sent to Vladivostok, which is in the far eastern part of Russia, using Russian naval vessels. So they project a second dispatch to happen in the near future. And as you mentioned in news highlights, there are many more being being planned underway. So the soldiers who are already there, they're currently going through training and are suspected to be dispatched to the front lines. And it seems that they will operate as Russian soldiers. So the National Intelligence Service said that these North Korean soldiers have been given Russian military uniforms and weapons, as well as fake Russian ID cards as residents from Siberian regions where they do tend to have similar physical traits to Asians.
Yes.
So the Ukrainian military also released a video they have apparently acquired of these North Korean soldiers receiving Russian equipment. And in that video, you can actually hear some North Korean dialects, the accents coming out, people speaking in Korean,
Yes.
such as like don't cross the line or stay back, although it hasn't been objectively verified as whether it is of North Korean soldiers being trained in Russia specifically.
I see.
But the troop deployment in any case is based on the military pact that North Korean leader Kim Jong-un and Russian President Vladimir Putin signed back in June, pledging each other support for the other when the other country is at war, which Russia obviously is.
So how has the South Korean government responded to all of this? Because, we've heard of this it was going to happen, but now we actually see evidence.
Right. So, this is a huge concern for the international community at large.
Sure.
So, President Yoon Suk-yeol on Friday convened an emergency security meeting at Yongsan, and the participants agreed that the troop deployment is a serious security threat, not only against South Korea, but also for the international community.
Sure.
And it said the country will respond with all available channels and measures with the international community. And this, by the way, may be hinting this all available channels and methods, hinting at providing Ukraine with weapons potentially, which South Korea, despite urging from Ukraine, has not yet done.
Yes. So that's what's happening on that front. We'll, of course, follow that story since it's a major one. But let's go to another global conflict, the war in Gaza. We now have details on how the Hamas leader Yahya Sinwar was killed.
And it was actually entirely by chance at the hands of Israeli trainee soldiers who had been at war for about 7 to 9 months. So this is a rather ironic, as Israel has had Yahya Sinwar on the very top of their most wanted list for over a year. And they have been trying to actively kill him for that period, but it was actually a random patrol that killed him. So according to Israel, a regular patrol was going on with a training unit.
Yes.
And they were conducting searches, mostly for bombs that they could dismantle. But the soldiers saw a small group of fighters moving between buildings. And they sent in drones to locate them and fired on them, killing 3 fighters, one of whom turned out to be Yahya Sinwar.
Yes.
So there's actually drone footage that Israel released of Sinwar in his very last moments. And you can see him injured, presumably injured. He's sitting in an armchair, and he's actually throwing a stick at the drone as it's filming him before that building was overrun by tanks and missiles. So the narrative that's been presented by Israel and Hamas, respectively, is vastly different. So Israel had earlier said that Sinwar died while fleeing from Rafah. So they basically was painting him as trying to run away.
Sure.
However, Hamas, which did confirm his death, said that he died while engaged in battle, and that footage of him throwing the stick kind of substantiates that.
So in terms of Israel and its fight against like Hamas and Hezbollah and all the top, fighters and leaders, in this case, it seems that the deceased leader has kind of been painted into a martyr of sorts.
Right. So that's, of course, in line with Hamas's narrative.
Right.
And that's also what Iran, which supports Hamas, Iran's mission to the United Nations actually full out explicitly spoke of Sinwar as a martyr.
Yes.
And that's kind of why Israel is contemplating what to do with Sinwar's body, which is in Israel's possession right now. So reports quote sources from Israel saying that Israel will try to leverage a hostage exchange with Hamas with his body as kind of major collateral.
Right.
However, the concern is, after that, once his body is back in Gaza, what then? Because this may be a source of mobilization for Hamas supporters, and his burial site, in whatever form it takes, may become kind of a sacred ground of sorts. And this case has been compared to Osama bin Laden, who's
Yes.
also a major terrorist. That's why the U.S. had a burial at sea, so no one would know and be able to mobilize around that site.
Indeed. So it's not just Sinwar, but it seems much of Hamas, Hezbollah, the top leaders have been taken out, basically. Are we any closer to the end of the war, though? That's the big question.
That is the big question. Unfortunately, it doesn't seem to be. So major leaders of the axis of resistance in the Middle East, they have pretty much all been taken out in recent months. So Sinwar, he led Hamas in Gaza, along with its political leader Ismail Haniyeh and military commander Mohammed Deif and another key figure. They were all key figures behind October 7th. They have all been taken out. And we also have the Hezbollah leader Hassan Nasrallah, who died in July. So the U.S. President Joe Biden, after news broke that Sinwar had died, he said there was chance of working towards a ceasefire in Lebanon.
Yes.
However, he also acknowledged that it will be harder in Gaza. So President Biden has been sending out messages calling for a ceasefire, but neither Israel nor Hamas are really actively responding. That's why the situation is much more complicated.
Sure.
Actually, they've been amping up their respective offensive and positions, and they say they will both win the war. To that end, there was actually a report of a drone attack on Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu's private residence. He said that was conducted by Hezbollah. He stated that this assassination attempt was a grave mistake. Both he and his wife are okay.
Yes.
Pundits say that Sinwar's death is a huge hit for Hamas because he is the top leader. He was the top leader. However, they knew this was going to happen because he had once again been at the top of the wanted list for a year. So they
Sure.
had prepared for this. So it won't likely make the militant group retreat nor surrender. And any ceasefire talks for at least a time being may be difficult because he was actually the one in charge of ceasefire talks.
Oh, in charge of the negotiations.
Right.
So, well, that's what we have for now. The war in the Middle East. Now for a final story, perhaps. Something that isn't as grave, but still pretty serious here domestically. Kimjang season is here. And the price of like the Asian or the Napa cabbage, still so high.
Right. So let's end on a lighter note in terms of this isn't war, but of course it affects us very closely at
Yes.
home. So Baechu kimchi, the Napa cabbage or Asian cabbage-based kimchi, is the number one most consumed food here in South Korea.
Right.
But it is also, because of that, an important indicator of our economy and, of course, culture. So this practice of the pre-winter bulk kimchi making, which is kimjang, is a reflection of changes across South Korean culture. So this is the key takeaway. Whether it be due to economic or cultural reasons, people are making less kimchi than ever. So this is according to a Korean Rural Economic Institute survey over 550 consumers. It showed that little over half of those surveyed said they will make the same amount of kimchi as in the previous years.
Sure.
And by the way, we measure that by the number of heads of kimchi pogi compared to last year. However,
Right.
over 35% said that they will cut down on their kimchi making, their kimjang amount. So for an average 4-person household in Korea, they make about 22 heads of kimchi to last them through winter. So that's the usual amount.
Sure.
But for this year, an average consumer said that they're looking to make about 18.5.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
So one of the obvious reasons, at least to me, might be the cost of the ingredients.
Right, because it's kumbaechu, right? The baechu prices are being likened to gold.
Yes.
So that's what 42% of the respondents said. Asian cabbage prices still haven't come down from that huge spike we saw due to the heat wave that was driving the poor crop yield. And actually, for many cases, they're delaying their kimjang or kimchi making period. So early November is typical kimjang season. And this is when, right now is when households, usually moms, grandmas, make their bulk order of cabbage, even
Right.
pre-salt marinated cabbage. However, with the rise in prices, about 62% said that they're delaying their kimchi making to late November, even after mid-December. So it would be solidly in winter by that point.
Sure.
And the government did announce that they're going to try to bring down prices by bringing in Asian cabbage from China. However, the vast majority, and we're talking about 94%, said that even if that does happen, they have no intention of buying cabbage or Asian cabbage from China.
Telling, yes.
Yeah, by the way, another popular reason for not making as much kimchi at home or making kimchi at home at all was because simply their families are not eating as much kimchi.
Oh, true.
And that could be because of changes in like taste, but also people just aren't eating at home as much as they used to. So that said, that was the reason almost 30%. And also, of course, 15% of people saying it's just easier to buy it.
That is true. So that's the story of kimchi and kimjang for today.
Indeed.
Well, thank you for all the news items. And of course, we'll check in with you in hour number 2. Thank you, Haley.
See you in a bit.
And with that, it is time for our first song for today. So here we go. This is Love Fool by the Cardigans.
Dear, I fear we're facing a problem. You love me no longer. I know, and maybe there is nothing that I can do to make you do. Mama tells me I shouldn't bother, that I ought to stick to another man, a man that surely deserves me, but I think you do. So I cry and I pray and I beg. Love me, say that you love me. Fool me, go on and fool me. Love me, pretend that you love me. Leave me, just say that you need me. So I cry and I beg for you to love me. Say that you love me. Leave me, just say that you need me. I can't care about anything but you. Lately I have desperately pondered, spent my nights awake, and I wonder what I could have done in another way to make you stay. Reason will not lead to a solution. I will end up lost in confusion. I don't care if you really care, as long as you don't go. So I cry, I pray and I beg. Love me, say that you love me. Fool me, go on and fool me. Love me, pretend that you love me. Leave me, just say that you need me. So I cry and I beg for you to love me. Say that you love me. Leave me, just say that you need me. I can't care about anything but you. Love me, say that you love me. Fool me, go on and fool me. Love me, I know that you need me. I can't care about anything but you.
Welcome back, everybody. That was a good song. I love that song every time we play it. And now let's get back to our main topic at hand. So we are talking about the various deregulatory ways to meet tourism demand, making use of existing local infrastructure. So South Korea is working on its own home sharing program with a pilot program in Seoul and our city, Busan. So the government's deregulation panel also approved the urban self-storage service, where locals can rent out storage spaces for others. So the rental period can vary from a day up to a year. So this is common in countries like the US and Japan, but had been illegal in the urban areas in South Korea as self-storage facilities had been classified as warehouses under the law. So the government said that such outsourcing of physical space would make good use of residential spaces and can lead to both jobs and profit. So that's our main theme for today. We're talking about this. We want tourism to thrive in Busan, and we want it to be a little easier and have, options for accommodations. So that's what the country and our city is doing. So the government said that such outsourcing of physical space would make good use of residential spaces, which could then lead to both jobs and, of course, profit. Now back to our text topic. Are you ready? What Korean food do you miss when you go abroad? So I remember anytime I go abroad, I don't take my jar of kimchi with me. I don't do that because in most countries, there is Korean food available. Not all, but in most areas. But sometimes you just kind of go to an area where it is kind of remote or they don't have a good Korean restaurant and you kind of, the nostalgia, 향수병 of Korean food, even for a few days, some people can't live without it. So, 내가 해외에 나가면 그리운 또는 그리울 한국 음식은 what might that be? That's what we're talking about today. So looking at your responses, so I see a lot of kimchi. That's a popular response because kimchi, of course, is still very much a staple of Korean cuisine. For me, I would say, I can go probably about a week maximum without some form of kimchi. But after a week, I start kind of craving it. Oh, I wonder if this place has kimchi somewhere. Right. And what else? Well, 가보자고 Waver agrees with me. Benny says, I can't live without bulgogi and kimchi. Oh, so the bulgogi. Bulgogi, that's a good one too. And seaweed soup is one that's coming up quite often this morning as well. Kim Hae-jin Waver says, I miss 닭볶음탕. Oh, now that we're kind of salivating at 7:35 in the morning, well, maybe we can choose some of these things for our lunch menus this morning. Well, for now, though, we're going to get to Cat's Pick. For today's Cat's Pick, I know that this is not breaking news, but I was waiting a few days to let the dust settle because anytime a famous person passes, I don't like to go on rumors or innuendos. So I was waiting for some concrete news reports. So this clip is regarding Liam Payne.
Now to the latest on the investigation into the death of One Direction star Liam Payne. A source telling ABC News a hotel employee in Argentina is suspected of providing drugs to the pop star the day he died.
So what we're learning is that these new details into what just may have led up to Liam Payne's sudden death. Now, we know so far from Argentinian state police that Payne fell from the third floor of his hotel room. Well, now we've learned that a hotel employee is suspected of giving Payne drugs the day he died. Now, all this according to an ABC News source with the Argentinian state police. Now, this hotel employee has not been arrested and no charges have been filed against them at this time, according to our ABC News source. The prosecutor's office, however, confirms that these photos shared with ABC News appearing to show drugs and a smashed television were taken inside Payne's hotel room. Now, Payne's preliminary autopsy report says his death was the result of multiple traumas and internal and external bleeding, adding that Payne didn't seem to adopt a reflex posture to protect himself and that he may have fallen while in a state of semi or total unconsciousness. Now, all of this as fans continue to mourn the beloved former One Direction star. Liam Payne's girlfriend, Kate Cassidy, calling him her angel, sharing in part on social media. I have been at complete loss. Nothing about the past few days have felt real. I want you to know I loved you unconditionally and completely. Now, the pop star's father, Jeff Payne, is in Buenos Aires to arrange for the return of his son's body to the UK. All of this, of course, as the investigation into his death, including his final autopsy report, are still being examined.
So as you heard in that clip, those are the details that have emerged from this tragic story of Liam Payne and his passing. And once again, I did want to wait a few days before, reporting on it because I wanted to kind of let it sink in, especially because there are so many fans of One Direction and of the singer in particular. So this was Kat's pick for today.
Stay tuned. You're listening to Morning Wave in Busan.
It is now time for Joffrey, Professor Joffrey. He's in the studio for fun facts and trivia. So how was your weekend?
It was fun. Yeah. So, but it's getting cold. I was
It is.
I was in Seoul last weekend, so I felt that
busy.
chilly.
Oh, you did,
chilliness,
right? Yeah, definitely. Here it's so windy. During the weekend, it was just pretty insane, the wind. But I'm glad you're okay. You
I'm
made
fine.
it here.
Totally okay.
Yes.
Yeah.
All right. Let's get. Actually, I want to ask you about this. So today for our text topic, we're talking about when you go abroad. I know you take many business trips.
Yeah.
Do you ever miss Korean food? And please say yes and tell us an example. I'm forcing you.
Yeah.
Or is there something that you miss about Korean food when you go abroad?
I always bring two.
Oh, you
Right.
do?
Yeah.
What do you take?
I take with me Kim. You know
Kim.
Kim.
Yeah.
Kim, my family loves it.
Seaweed laver is so good.
Yes, sweet. And then the other one is coffee mix. I don't know why.
The coffee sticks?
Yeah, the coffee sticks.
Oh, really?
Not for me, but my family members love that. And then I even taught them how to, if you are sugar conscious,
Yes.
you have to press the end part,
End part so the sugar doesn't come out.
So that the sugar doesn't come out.
Oh, you're a professional
Yeah.
mixed coffee lover. Oh, that's actually a trick that I use as well. But I didn't even think about that. But Kim is really extremely
Kim.
popular.
Yeah, for me, Kim.
Anytime you have a bowl of rice, and if you don't, you just need Kim.
That one, when I had my dormitory in Finland,
Yes.
my roommate was Korean. So we share.
To share the Kim?
Yeah, 2 months before we started the semester, he shipped 2 boxes of Korean goods. Yeah, with
Ooh.
jjajangmyeon, ramen, and then the kimchi, packed kimchi.
The packed kimchi.
And
Ooh.
even, was that the the putogi? How do you call that one?
Kaktogi? What are we
not
talking about?
kaktogi. It's not an insect, but
번데기.
번데기.
Oh, 번데기. Sorry, I said it so 번데기 is
번데기.
the standard Korean.
Yeah.
But everybody calls it 번데기, so.
Right.
Let's dive into our topic. And it's kind of similar to what we're talking about today, right?
Yes.
Yes.
In line, I was listening earlier about the kinjang, and then you asked our listeners what thing that you don't want to,
Yes.
that you always miss or bring with you.
Yes.
And some of our listeners said that they could not. There's a connection between them and kimchi.
Yes,
really
absolutely.
cultural food. So today we're going to be diving into the world of food and food culture from around the world.
Love
because we
it.
know that food is not just about sustenance that gives us life, but it's a reflection of culture and history.
Yes. I agree.
So we have a lot of things to discuss in a short period of time. We're going to be talking about ingredients. We're going to be talking about, of course, food cultures and then combinations of food. And there's also a connection between food and dreams. And you already know there's some taboos, innovations, and food festivals.
It's all about food. So
Yeah, it's
foodies,
all
get
about
ready.
food.
All right, here we go.
So let's start with some ingredients that are considered delicacies in various cultures.
Yes.
For instance, did you know that edible flowers are gaining popularity? Flowers like violets and hibiscus or nasturtiums can add a delightful twist to salads and desserts. And they do not only add beauty to dishes,
Yes.
but also offer unique flavors and health.
I agree. And it's becoming more common. Like back in the day, it was kind of like, oh, for like fine dining, they have like fancy, like little sprinkles of flower
Yeah.
petals here and there. And it was kind of for the aesthetics. But I think it's becoming
I
more
had
common.
that experience before. I asked if that is edible or not, and for first timers.
Yes. Yes.
We also have, speaking of ingredients,
Yes.
in many cultures, insects are a staple source of protein.
And they are, and we should not be ewing out at anything because,
Yeah.
I mean, according to each culture and country,
It is.
it's very commonplace. Like here in Korea, we have bondegi.
Bondegi.
And then when, people come visit, they always ask, what is that? And then when you explain, there's usually a reaction. But then you say like, oh, well, why don't you try before you judge?
It is.
Everybody
it is.
has their own, different palate. However, so yeah, insects.
Insects. Even in the Philippines, we have what we call balut. I'm not sure
what
if
is
you heard
balut?
about it.
What is that?
Balut is one popular snack. It's a fertilized duck egg that has been incubated for about 14 days.
14 days.
Before being boiled and eaten. So it's rich in protein.
Yes.
And is often enjoyed with a sprinkle of salt and vinegar. It's fascinating how different cultures have their own unique interpretations of what constitutes a delicacy, as you said.
Yes.
In Thailand, they have fried crickets and mealworms being sold as snacks. So insects are incredibly nutritious and
They are.
sustainable.
And some scientists, they actually think this is going to be more popular or at least more common in the near future when there might be a lack of protein, like in the far future even, that we might have to turn to insects as forms of protein.
As I said, it's more
Yes.
sustainable.
Right.
Yeah. Oh, so the next one is let me see, food culture. Have you heard about the word ikizukuri?
What is that?
It involves serving sashimi with from live seafood. I think we have a similar one in Korea.
Yes.
Eating it live.
Like sannakji.
Sannakji. This one, the fish is often served while still moving, which is meant to showcase its freshness. And diners often find this experience both thrilling and unsettling. But this practice is controversial and raises ethical questions about animal welfare.
I'm sure, yes.
It shows cultural differences in how we perceive food and animal welfare. It's a reminder that food practices are deeply rooted in cultural beliefs and traditions. So we have to
Sure.
respect and we have to be sensitive to how people see food in their own perspectives.
Right. And, there are certain practices that are deemed cruel and unusual. For example, like fattening of the duck on purpose just to get the fatty liver, like,
Yeah.
for like pate and stuff. That's actually outlawed in several parts of the world. Although some people might argue that's still part of, a certain culture. But, purposely like force feeding an animal just to get, fat for one particular part seems a little much. I'm just saying. That's what many people seem to think. And it
Yes.
is illegal in many parts, like I said, of the world. So,
So we had flowers earlier, right? Now we also have wild vegetables.
yes.
In some parts of Africa, foraging for wild vegetables is still a common practice.
Yes, it is.
And this not only provides food, but also connects people to their environment.
In Korea, too,
No.
when the suk 캐는 거, like, people like to go into the mountains to forage for their own herbs and veggies. So certain season, like spring comes around, it's common here in Korea as well.
We have fermented food in Korea, right?
Oh, yes.
And also in other East Asian countries. In, where is that? In Europe. Yeah. Did you know that in Iceland,
Yes.
one of the traditional dishes is called hakarl.
Oh.
Hakarl. This delicacy is fermented shark that has been buried underground for several months to ferment. And you know the result? A dish that has a strong ammonia smell and is often described as an acquired taste. So many brave souls who try it say it tastes like a mix of fish and cheese.
And cheese
But
because of the
smell,
fermentation.
The smell alone can be enough to deter even the most adventurous eaters.
Because the most similar thing I'm thinking of in Korean cuisine is the hongo. Like the
Hongo.
is very
Yeah.
fermented.
It is.
It's aged for several weeks, from what I understand, and that is also very people love it or they really dislike it because like it's strong, the ammonia smell.
When I first came to Korea, I didn't
Yes.
like kimchi.
Ah,
Yeah, to be honest, but
it's okay. I mean, there's no rule
But
that says you
now-
have to love kimchi.
But now I couldn't eat ramen without it. I don't. It's very automatic.
It's like an acquired taste, right?
I don't know. Whenever
Yes.
when you go home to your home country, visit your
Yes.
family, if you stay for like a week without, Korean food.
Right.
So the easiest or the most accessible is your ramyeon.
Right.
But if you eat ramyeon without the kimchi,
It's just
you
not the
feel
same?
like there's incompleteness.
Oh, incomplete.
There's something wrong, because
It's like
every
kimchi.
country.
You complete me
Yeah,
when I'm having ramen.
Every country has their own
Yes.
ramyeon.
Oh, yeah.
Like Indonesia they have, and then Thailand they have, Vietnam,
Yes.
even in my country. But I miss that. There's also a connection as we have been
Look at Joffrey
discussing
with
about-
his chopsticks.
Oh, this one. Why
You're
am I
like
thinking-
automatic.
Yeah.
Yes. So, how are the ramens different? Because I'm curious about the Filipino ramen. Is there something specific or unique?
Yeah, first of all, the serving is very small.
Oh,
I've compared that. Our ramyun in Korea is much bigger.
Bigger than the
than
serving
yeah.
size.
You can also see that in Indomie of Indonesia. It's smaller.
Oh, it's smaller.
Yeah, but ours is a little bit salty.
Salty.
Yeah, salty and salty. That's
Okay.
that's
That's kind of a trademark of
trademark.
Filipino
We also
ramen.
have the calamansi with lemon.
Ah, calamansi.
And chili.
Oh, and chili.
Yeah, and chili. But it's not as how chili or spicy we have in Korea.
Right.
Yeah.
Oh, Korea likes to bring the spice, the heat, as they say, right?
It became popular in the Philippines. You know that pul
Yeah, the
pul ramyun.
Yeah.
It's-
The fire chicken ramen.
The vloggers
Yes.
earned a lot because of that.
Because of that.
Because of that.
Right,
High
right.
views in YouTube and in
I'm
their
sure.
TikTok.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes. What else?
Speaking of chili,
Yes.
spicy, how about chocolate and chili peppers?
Chocolate and chili peppers.
Yeah.
I haven't tried, but
Well, this combination dates back to the ancient Mayans
Uh-huh.
who believed chocolate had aphrodisiac properties. It's a perfect example
Yes.
of how flavors can complement each other. So the heat from chili enhances the richness of the chocolate, creating a complex flavor profile from many people love. Yeah. And of course, we cannot forget durian.
Durian.
know.
Durian is like, I don't think it's a stretch to say it has a very strong odor, right?
Some airlines ban
Yes.
bringing durian.
Right.
Even Thailand now. But it's the king of fruits.
That's what they say.
That's what they say.
And
So
have you tried it?
I tried, but
It's not your cup of tea?
well, for those who consider that as their favorite, I don't want to offend them.
No, I'm just
Let me
asking your
say-
personal opinion.
Let me just say, it's not my favorite.
I mean, for me too, I thought that the smell was overwhelming, but the taste of it was okay. From my, when I tried it.
For
but
me,
the,
it's the
the
opposite.
smell was just too much. Yeah.
For me, it's the opposite.
Oh, the opposite.
The smell is fine, but
the
because
taste
of
was
the,
so-so.
the soft texture.
You didn't like the soft texture?
Yeah, I didn't like the soft texture.
But I had the same reaction to 청국장 when I first tried it. Like when I first tried it, I was like, oh, that's kind of strong, the pungent smell of the 청국장.
Yeah.
But then after I started like 비벼ing, mixing it with the rice, it was like, wow,
Is that
I
the
couldn't
same?
even tell the smell. It was just like, a little stronger than normal, but
Sorry, is that the same with the one we put in our bibimbap?
it's some restaurants, they give you, it looks like doenjang, but it's the
It's not
stronger.
doenjang,
It's the
right.
청국장, yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that could be it. Ooh. So, what else?
Oh yeah. Since we talk about the connection of food and our food and our dreams.
Sure.
I'm not sure if you heard about that. Yeah. Let's look at that. Did you know that certain foods can influence your dreams?
Really?
Yeah.
Influence your
A
dreams?
study found that participants reported that specific foods
Okay.
affected their dream content. For instance, cheese was linked to bizarre dreams.
Oh.
And it's intriguing how our diet can impact our subconscious. Foods that are heavy or rich can lead to more vivid dreams, while lighter meals might not have the same effect. So this is just to say that food
Yes.
is not just about nutrition.
Yes.
It's also about our overall well-being. And this phenomenon highlights the deep connection between our diet and our subconscious. So it's fascinating to think that what we consume
Yes.
can shape not just our physical health, but also our mental and emotional experience.
Well, food is so important, and we're going to end it on that note for today.
Right,
But
right.
thank you for bringing us such a fun topic today, because we're all foodies at heart, especially our waivers here. So we'll check in with you next week. Thank you, Joffrey.
Yeah, thank you too. It's really nice to have that kinjang and also those earlier topics that we had earlier.
Yes. All right. Well, listeners, before I let you go, I want to read a message from Young Waver. His name is Young. He's for the text topic. He says 떡볶이. 학교 앞에서 어묵 국물과 먹던 떡볶이 맛은 외국 나가면 정말 생각나요. 먹고 싶다. So he's talking about, reminiscing about enjoying the tteokbokki with the 어묵, right, the fish cake, and the broth from that. And it makes him nostalgic, especially when he goes abroad. So let's get to our final song. This is APT or 아파트 by Rose and Bruno Mars.
아파트 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 kissy face sent to your phone, but I'm trying to kiss your lips for real. Red hearts, that's what I'm on, yeah. Come give me something I can feel. Don't you want me like I want you, baby? Don't you need me like I need you now? Sleep tomorrow, but tonight go crazy. All you gotta do is just meet me at the 아파트 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 아파트
It's whatever you like. Turn this opposite into a club. I'm talking drink, dance, smoke, freak, party all night. Come back, girl, what's up? Don't you want me like I want you, baby? Don't you need me like I need you now? Sleep tomorrow, but tonight go crazy. All you gotta do is just meet me at the
아파트 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 Hey, so now you know the game. Are you ready? 'Cause I'm coming to get you. Hold on, I'm on my way. Yeah, I'm on my way. Hold on, I'm on my way.
Your bridge to the world. BEFM 부산 영어 방송.
부산의 축제 어디까지 즐겨보셨나요? 과거와 현재, 미래가 공존하는 항구도시 부산. 이곳 부산은 계절을 물들이는 다양한 축제로 늘 풍성합니다. 봄의 시작을 알리는 봄꽃 축제부터 부산의 여름을 만끽하는 바다 축제, 전 세계 영화인들이 모이는 부산국제영화제와 새로운 시작의 해맞이 축제까지. 부산의 축제는 우리의 열정을 가득 담고 있습니다. 바쁜 일상은 잠시 뒤로 하고 특별한 시간을 선물 받는 바로 이곳 부산에서 우리의 삶은 축제가 됩니다. 축제로 하나 되는 부산, 여러분은 어떤 축제를 기다리시나요? 이 캠페인은 대선공익재단과 BFM 부산 영어방송이 함께합니다.
혹시 지금 운전 중이신가요? 어린이 교통사고 피해자 수는 지난 3년 평균 약 9만 명. 특히 어린이 보호구역 안전 기준이 강화된 이후에도 어린이 보호구역 내 사고는 지속적으로 발생하고 있습니다. 스쿨존에서는 반드시 시속 30km 이하 서행, 스쿨존 내 불법 주정차 금지, 차량 출발 전 앞뒤 좌우 살피는 습관으로 어린이가 안전한 도시를 만듭니다. 참, 운전 중 휴대전화 사용은 모두에게 위험합니다. 우리 모두를 위한 교통안전, 나부터 실천하면 모두가 안전해집니다. 어린이가 안전하게 뛰어놀 수 있는 부산. 아이 키우기 좋은 도시는 우리 모두의 미래이자 희망입니다. 이 캠페인은 어린이가 안전한 부산을 만드는 은행, B&K 부산은행과 함께합니다.
During the hot summer season, typhoons can make landfall here in Korea unexpectedly. To prepare for this type of situation, please follow these guidelines. First, close all doors and windows and stay inside. Listen to your radio or tune into your TV for more information and keep your weather radio handy.
태풍은 내일 새벽 3시.
Avoid dangerous places such as flood-prone areas and landslide hazard areas. Turn off all utilities such as gas and appliances. Do not go near construction sites.
Good morning, Dynamic Busan.
Yeah, you're waking up. Time to shake it up. Tell the world good morning and find out what's going on.
Well, hi there, folks. There's everything from comedy to lively chat to music.
Broadcasting from a room about the size of your closet.
All calls are recorded. What show is this?
Live from Korea's dynamic city, this is Morning Wave in Busan.
I'm sorry, who'd you say you were?
It is now 8 o'clock and this is news highlights. South Korean satellite captures image of North Korean troop movement to Russia. The National Intelligence Service, or NIS, has presented satellite photos as evidence of North Korea's troop deployment to Russia to support its war against Ukraine. The NIS said that the North has decided to send around 12,000 troops to Russia and has already deployed 1,500 special forces troops to Vladivostok. That picture appears to have been taken by a satellite equipped with synthetic aperture radar known as SAR, which South Korea has been using to closely track Pyongyang's movements amid growing military cooperation between North Korea and Russia. President and PPP head to meeting today amid First Lady's controversies. President Yoon Suk-yeol and People Power Party PPP Chair Han Dong-hoon are set to meet this afternoon at Yongsan at a time when Yoon and the ruling party seek to recover from various scandals and dropping approval numbers. Yoon's chief of staff, Chung Jin-seok, said that the two will discuss a variety of topics without a set agenda, which is likely to include controversies surrounding First Lady Kim Gun-hee. Yoon's decision to meet with Han comes as the main opposition Democratic Party, or DP, has been stepping up their political offensive, even discussing Yoon's impeachment. Han has called for a staff reshuffle at the presidential office over allegations of undue influence among members. SNU hospital workers announced strike starting October 31st. Unionized workers at Seoul National University, or SNU Hospital, have decided to launch an indefinite walkout beginning on October 31st in protest of the government's healthcare reform and poor working conditions. The union reached the decision in a meeting on Friday after its talks with the hospital fell through and blamed the government for attempting to destroy the public healthcare system by reducing the number of beds at tertiary hospitals. The union plans to launch a strike unless the hospital accepts its call to reinforce the public healthcare system and hire more personnel for the safety of workers and patients. First snow of the season observed at Mount Seorak. The Korea National Park Service office at Mount Seorak said that it has observed the first snow of the season on Saturday at 7:30 p.m., which came down for some 12 hours. The morning lows at Mount Seorak yesterday reached a negative 2.6 degrees Celsius, and felt temperatures plummeted to 10 below zero from strong winds. This first snow of the season came 2 days earlier than last year. At least 87 killed in Gaza as UN warns nowhere is safe. Gaza's Hamas-run health ministry has said at least 87 people were killed and more than 40 injured in Israel's airstrike in northern Gaza on Saturday local time. The Israeli military has been intensifying bombardments of northern Gaza, saying it wants to prevent Hamas fighters from regrouping there. A United Nations official said that the nightmare is intensifying in Gaza and added that nowhere is safe in the enclave, while urging the war to stop now. And this was News Highlights. It is that time for Issue Wagger Wagger. We have Haley back in the studio with us.
Good morning again.
All right, so we have already addressed this issue of South Korea going through its worst tax revenue deficit. And the government may have set its heights on filling at least some of this gap with fees and fines.
Right. So the South Korean government, a bit of background, it, let's say, overshot its tax revenue projections by some 86 trillion won. And that's between last year and this year combined. So if you look at the government's budget for the next year, they have vastly increased the quota for fees and fines. So we're talking about things like traffic tickets.
Yes.
So Democratic Party's lawmaker Park Hong-gun, who's also part of the Parliamentary Finance and Economy Committee, he said his office analyzed the government's budget bill next year and also in the previous years,
right,
and said that what's called the current transfer revenues, which in Korean is 경상 이전 수입, is set at 13 trillion won, which is about 1.6 trillion won higher.
Yes, yes. So what does that entail? What does it mean?
Right. So what is 경상 이전 수입? The current transfer revenues. So these are government revenues, or what they make, the money that they make, that come from fines, both misdemeanor and criminal fines, retrieved or seized assets, and other forms of punitive payments.
I see.
So for most people, for your average Joe, that would be in the form of traffic tickets.
Sure.
Mostly getting pulled over on traffic stops, or in Korea, it's much more common for you to get caught speeding on a camera.
Yes.
Yes, yes.
Or by a drone.
Unfortunately, we know that. So the National Police Agency next year has been assigned to collect 183 billion won extra in fines. And that applies to pretty much every law enforcement agency. So
Okay.
we're talking about the tax service, the customs office, the fair trade commissions. They all have been assigned higher current transfer revenues, aka fees and fines.
Okay.
And by the way, let's just get this out there. It is common for the government, happens almost every year, to raise this transfer fees, this particular form of taxation.
Okay.
But never to this extent, never by this much in a single year.
Sure.
So the overall increase in revenue is 4.5% for the projection, but the current transfer revenue is triple that. So the lawmaker said that it seems to be strategy for the government to kind of fill the holes in its taxation by imposing more fines for the general public, which he called, quote, an easy way out.
Oh, well, I don't know how people will feel about that.
Right. So starting next year, definitely watch where and how fast you're going.
Indeed, indeed. All right, moving on to our next topic. You know, even before she won the Nobel Prize in Literature, Hangang's works have been featured in textbooks and school lessons. Apparently, though, she has not received a single penny, or we'll say 1원, for this in terms of copyright.
Right, 한푼, right?
Right.
So the agency that's in charge of that entire process of selecting, featuring, and even compensating artists and writers back for literary works is the Korea Literature Academic Works and Arts Copyright Association.
Sure.
So according to their website, Hangang's works have been used at least 34 times in various academic settings, including 11 times in textbooks.
Right.
Others would be in class lessons and exams. But the association has never paid copyright compensations to the author for using her work. And actually, she isn't the only case. It hasn't given out 10.4 billion won in the past 10 years. So they're due 10.4 billion won to various writers.
Right.
Here's the thing, though. If it's been 5 years since the money wasn't claimed or just money hadn't gone out to the creator,
Right.
the association, under the approval of the Culture Ministry, can use that money for public purposes, but it can reclaim that money. And yeah, I know, I'm like, really? And it has done so for 13.8 billion won.
Okay, so my big question now is, why haven't the authors claimed any of this money?
Right. Here's the thing. They likely didn't know about it. Well,
Okay.
So under the law, and this has been controversial on its own, you actually don't need permission from the authors to use their work if it's going into a textbook, if it's for public educational purposes.
Oh, really?
Yeah. So, I mean, we can argue about the merits of that, which
Yes.
we won't at this point, but
Right,
we
right.
can. So oftentimes, here's the thing, the authors aren't even notified that their work is going into a textbook.
I see.
And a famous author has actually opposed this, saying he doesn't want an excerpt of his work to go in, that it should be taken in a whole context. But of course, reasonably, practically, you can't put an entire novel on a test. But, once again, another discussion for another time. And then also, to get the compensation, the authors themselves, they have to apply. They have to basically seek it out and apply. But then here's the thing, if you're not told that your work's being used, how can you apply?
It's kind of like
Right.
Catch-22.
Exactly. So
you got to know.
Right. For Hangang's particular case, the Literary Association explained that they couldn't notify her of the process because they didn't have, and this is their official explanation,
Yes.
they didn't have her contact.
That's their
explanation.
reason.
I'm sure she has a literary agent.
I'm sure she has
And
many
publishers.
Yes.
So I don't know.
persons of contact. Maybe not her directly, but anyhow. For our final story, genetics may explain why we are so partial to carbs, carbohydrates.
Yes.
Really? We have an excuse?
We can blame Neanderthals and Amy. Who's Amy? We're getting there.
Okay, I was like,
it's
Amy.
a gene. It's
Okay.
a gene. So the previous perception
Yes.
and kind of the logic behind many diet programs is that our cavemen and cavewomen ancestors, they primarily ate meats and vegetables, right? So
Sure.
that's the basis behind the paleo and all the
Paleo
keto
diet,
diet.
right.
So if you want to be healthy, cut out carbs. Well, here's new research published in the journal Science from the Jackson Laboratory and the University of Buffalo. They offer the first hereditary, so genetic evidence of early carb-based diets and how that was necessary for survival, aka my favorite research ever. So the scientists traced the evolution of a gene called AMY1.
Amy.
I'm calling Amy, aka my new best friend.
Yes.
That enables humans to break down starch, which is, of course, primarily in carbohydrates, into simple sugars. And why do we need to do that? To use as energy. So it actually showed that eating carbs, the practice of doing so, goes far back as far as Neanderthals, about 800,000 years ago.
Oh.
And it's not just that it shows that it was necessary, that carbs rather than protein back then provided the energy bump that was necessary for the increase not only in activities, but for us to kind of grow our brains over time. So is this a really long-winded way of saying that I'm going to have a burrito for lunch? Yes, it is. To grow my brain.
Yes, thank you, Amy.
Thanks, Amy.
And
Amy
Haley for all the Wagga Wagga, and we'll check in with you tomorrow.
Have a great day.
All right, everybody. Now back to you. The waivers out there. Let's get your traffic update and weather out. It is now 8:12 on this Monday morning. Here's your update on traffic. There is an accident on Pyeongnam-lo coming into the city, a collision between a car and a cargo truck right by the Wondong ramp. Please be aware of this. Also looking quite slow on Mandok-daero from Mandok intersection to the ramp leading to the expressway. Also backed up on Gwangan Bridge to the Daeyeon overpass. It's also congested on the Dongso overpass from Hwangryong ramp to the old Kegum tollgate. Currently, it is 19 degrees Celsius under cloudy skies. Rain is forecast starting in the afternoon. The daytime high will go up to 24 today. Looking at the weather nationwide, cloudy throughout the country with rain forecast in the southern regions. It's expected to come down quite heavily for the next 2 days, so let's kind of prepare ourselves. This was your traffic and weather. And this is Mejbehud by Charles Aznavour.
Des années sans répit, jour et nuit, pour réussir, pour gravir, le sommet. En oubliant, souvent dans ma course contre le temps, mes amis, mes amours, mes emmerdes. Accord perdu, j'ai couru, assoiffé, obstiné, vers l'horizon, l'illusion, vers l'abstrait, en sacrifiant ses darons, je m'en accuse à présent, mes amis, mes amours, mes emmerdes. Mes amis, c'était tout en partage. Tout. Mes amours faisaient très bien l'amour. Mes emmerdes étaient ceux de notre âge. Bien sûr. Où l'argent c'est dommage et peuronnait nos jours. Pour être fier, je suis fier entre nous, je l'avoue. J'ai fait ma vie, mais il y a je donnerai ce que j'ai, pas tout à fait, pour retrouver, je l'admets, mes amis, mes amours, mes emmerdes. Mes relations sont vraiment haut placées, très haut placées, décorées, très décorées, influents, très influents, bedonnants, des gens bien, très bien. Ils sont sérieux, trop sérieux, mais près de tout près d'eux, j'ai toujours le regret de mes amis, mes amours, mes emmerdes. Mes amis étaient pleins d'insouciance. Mes amours avaient le corps brûlant. Mes emmerdes aujourd'hui, quand j'y pense, avaient peu d'importance et c'était le bon temps. Les canulars, les pétards, les folies, les orgies, les jours du bac, le cognac, les refrains. Tout ce qui fait, je le sais, que je n'oublierai jamais mes amis, mes amours, mes emmerdes.
All right,
welcome back, everybody. So today we have been talking about food in particular. What Korean food do you miss when you go abroad? Or would you miss if you were to go abroad? Because, oftentimes you want to take a little bit of home with you, right? So, so far we've been getting lots of tteokbokki answers. Also, kimchi. I think that's a perennial favorite. And yes, Tommy mentions even actually mixed coffee is the most popular coffee in my Brazil factory. So that's very telling as well that how, amazingly popular those mixed coffee sticks are abroad. It's very quintessential Korean, is it not at this point? I know it's not some fancy cuisine. And even Kim Boradori Waver says, 떡볶이 is my soul food. 떡볶이로 기분 up. So that is why we are talking about this, because sometimes we definitely need that, extra, home away from home. And I definitely think it comes with food. For me, when I go abroad, I do try to really enjoy the local food on site, wherever I am, and really kind of immerse myself into that culture's food. So I do try to, stay away from the Korean food. But when it comes to day 7, if it's a long vacation, I start having those cravings. I do. I certainly do. And that is why, I seek out Korean restaurants around day 7 or 8. I'm like, yeah, I need some kimchi. I need some kimchi jjigae or doenjang jjigae or something that reminds me of the Korean taste that goes so well with everything. So that's what we're talking about. And I'll be back in just a moment with our special interview.
에드워드는 위스키 마시네. 네, 이규는 막걸리 마셔요. 저는 비빔 인간입니다.
고기.
Seafood? Seafood.
Do you seafood or meat? Seafood?
물고기.
Seafood?
물고기. 여기요. 말씀하고 싶은 거 썼어요. 나에게는 에드워드라는 미국 이름이 있지만 저는 한국 이름도 있어요. 나에게 한국 이름은 균입니다. 그래서 이 요리는 이균이 만들었어요.
Coming up next, Morning Wave in Busan special interview with Edward Lee.
And yes, that was the very voice of Chef Edward Lee featured on Netflix's Culinary Class Wars, 흑백 요리사. Have you seen it? I know most of you wavers out there have, because you were texting me while we were talking about just food in general. So Edward Lee, Lee-gyun, he is known for his creativity and deep passion for food. And I have to say, I did a bit of reading. I did, just to show the Buttermilk Graffiti. Read it all through the weekend, was so touched by his passion for food, capturing the hearts of so many during this cooking competition series called Culinary Class Wars. So as a master of blending Korean and Western flavors, I think he really brought something unique to every challenge, did he not? And I'm so curious as to whether he is able to enjoy tofu. That's going to be one of my first questions. So here he is joining us in the metaphorical flesh. Let's welcome Chef Edward Lee, or Lee-gyun, American celebrity chef, author, and restaurateur. So hi, welcome to the program.
Thank you for having me. Hello, everybody.
Yes, so excited. We've been super excited about this for days on end. But my first question to you is this. Is it okay to call you Edward? Is that okay?
Yes.
Okay, so Edward, are you able to, enjoy tofu, or are you still kind of staying away from it?
I don't eat tofu anymore.
Not anymore?
No, I mean, I can eat it. We filmed a long time ago,
Right.
So I'm over it. But no, I probably went 4 months without having a single bite of tofu.
Yes. So that tofu we're referring to, for those of you, spoiler alert, if you haven't caught all the episodes, there is this marathon where the chefs involved, they have to, was it for 6 hours you were cooking with tofu?
I don't remember, but it was very close to it.
Yes, yes. So, on that note, tell us about your experience on Culinary Class Wars. What was it like?
Oh gosh, it was so intense. It's because I was away from my home. Being in, it's already kind of a little unnerving to be in another country.
Right.
So to be competing in another country, and my family's back home in the U.S. and I don't have my friends around in my surroundings, so it was very intense. The production, the filming was everything was on a bigger scale, right? So
yes.
Like I've done all the chefs shows in America, but I've never done a show where there was 100 chefs. So just the scale, the number of cameras, the production crew, I mean, it was intense. And then, to be there alone, and even like just having support, like sometimes you want to call your family or your wife, but it's middle of the night, right? So it's the exact opposite. So I couldn't,
Yes.
I didn't want to wake her up at like 3 a.m. So it was very hard. Thinking back, it was a great experience. But the challenge of being there and doing the food and everything, it was quite grueling.
Right. And for our listeners and viewers right now, some might not realize that you have to fly back and come back. So you were also dealing with jet lag and just traveling.
Yeah. So we didn't shoot everything, but a lot of it, some of it was, but yeah, I had to go back and then come back. And so you get jet lag from that. Yeah.
Indeed. I'm also very curious. While you were partaking in that show, were you able to taste the other chefs' cooking cuisine dishes at all?
Not really, because some people did. You get so focused on what you're doing.
Sure.
And you kind of look around, but once you're done, they take whatever plate that the other chef makes, they take it, right? Because you have to go for judging. So there's not, like, sometimes you can go and pick off a little bit of a little thing off their cutting board, just to see what they're, but it's not like they make an extra dish just to taste, right? So there's no actual like beautiful plate to eat off of. So
right.
Yeah, so I was telling them I was very jealous of the judges because they got to eat every single thing. And, I wanted to try all of it, really. Everything there looks really good. And especially sometimes when you're up above, they have that little, terrace area so you can watch from above sometimes.
Yes.
And you watch it and the food looks so good, and but you can smell it too.
Right.
And sometimes you're up there for a long time and you're so hungry and it smells so good. And you just eat anything. That was sometimes more torture than the competing, was just seeing all the food. And there were some really, really talented chefs that got knocked out early, in that first round of cooking.
Right. And so I want to ask Edward, if I had to put you on the spot, and I'm going to right now, if you had to choose one particular chef where, he or she stood out to you, or you really wanted, hey, I really want to taste that particular dish. I know it was a couple months back, but if you can try to remember, what was one that really stood out to you?
I don't know if there's one that really stood out. I mean, there was, in that first round, there was a lady who made like pork belly dumplings.
Yes.
And I was watching, because we were right above her, and it looked so good. And that was one I really wanted. Like, I wanted to reach down and grab it. The dim sum chef who made, she made Chinese dim sum.
Right.
During the restaurant challenge, her little shrimp thing that she made with the thing, that was, it looked so, and it was right there, but again, we were so busy.
Right.
By the time the challenge was over, like everything's, and then everything's cold, right? So I mean, you go straight from finish, and they go right to filming and other stuff. So it's not like you have time to wait around. But those are definitely. And then once you get to the later rounds, like the inseng yori,
yes,
that like every dish was awesome. I wish I could have really tried, because there was only 8 people, so you got to really see everything. So I would.
Yes,
that would be an incredible 8-course dinner, right? If you made like that for everyone. So yeah, there was some really, really creative cooking going on.
And of our many questions that are like coming up like constantly right now on our chat board, one person wants to know, 상괭이들 waiver says this. I'll read it in Korean first and then I'll translate it for you. 어떤 종류의 생선, and in parentheses, 물고기를 가장 좋아하시나요? So this person wants to know, do you have, because the whole clip we just played of you referring to 생선 as 물고기, for us Korean Americans, it's like, isn't it the same? Apparently not, but what's your favorite type of fish? Do you have a particular type?
Oh gosh, I love all kinds of fish, but I would say if I had to choose one, I love like snapper, red snapper, which is particularly kind of popular in the U.S., in the southern part of the U.S.
Yes.
And you can get them like, all different sizes, but you can get them kind of like, this size, about
the tomi. Yes.
Yeah. And then you can just like, you can fry them whole. And I love fish that way. You just fry them whole and it's still on the bone. And then and it flakes off and it's really, really beautiful. Just so tender. And I love the skin. I love eating the skin on a fish.
Yes, I agree with you. So delicious, that part of the fish. Many of our waivers, they're really dying to know how you got your start as a chef. So can you tell us about this journey? I know you've said like early on you kind of knew in your heart of hearts that you wanted to be a chef, but can you tell us a little bit more?
Yeah, I mean, it's like not the most exciting story because I didn't really have like an epiphany moment. I always knew. I just think sometimes people are born into something,
right?
And I can really think of some of my earliest memories, maybe when I was like 10 years old. And I always knew, maybe I didn't know what a chef meant, right? But I always knew that I was going to do something with food. I was always curious about it in a way that consumed me, like I know it sounds crazy, but I think I can still remember like the first time I ate rice, or like I have these very, very early memories of vivid memories of like eating things for the first time. And I don't know, it's always been something that I've wanted to, I was just curious about, even from when I was a little kid. And I guess all kids are curious about food, but it was always like a puzzle to me. And so I never really thought that I would do anything else. And I could, I just remember knowing that I was going to, of course, when you're a kid, you don't remember exactly, but I just always remember knowing in my heart that I would be a chef. So that in some ways I feel very lucky because I never had to think about anything else.
Yes, yes. And looking to your grandmother and your mother, because I know you speak of them fondly often. I remember you saying that your mother is your hero, that, she would work from often sunrise to sundown. Of course, your dad, I'm sure as well. But of your mom's dishes, do you have a personal favorite, kind of like a go-to, this is my favorite dish of mom's?
She didn't. So the interesting thing was I really didn't have my mother's cooking until later. Because when we were younger, my mother and father worked. And so I ate my grandmother's food.
Yes.
That's kind of my earliest memories of my grandmother's food. And then as I got older, my mother and I actually started to cook together.
Ooh.
And so she, and she, you know, she loved cooking, but you know, she was busy. She had to work, and so she wasn't a stay-at-home mom. So it was just kind of a weird thing that I didn't really grow up on my mother's food, but as I got older, we started to cook together more. So, but she would always make jeonggol, like that was her thing. She loved making those, like, you know, we had those braising pans, and she would make like different kinds of jeonggol.
Sure.
She loved making different kinds of pajeon. That was like her thing, and so it's been interesting because I got to sort of have the experience of my grandmother's cooking and my mother's cooking, but not at the same time, like in different periods.
Sure. So from grandma to later on your mother, and the fact that you can share those stories and are able to cook together is so amazing to hear about. And there was something in one of your books, Buttermilk Graffiti. I know I sent you a DM saying, "Hey, I finally got your book." It took a while for me to get it here in Korea. Sure. You mentioned something that I do want to ask you about, because you said in the book that you don't really like to use the word authentic when it comes to tying that in with food. So can you explain that? Because I know, you know, when you go to restaurants or on cookbooks, there's always authentic this and authentic that.
Yeah. And I think that's the whole point is nothing is authentic. When you say something is authentic, you're implying that this is the real thing and that other version is fake. And to me, I don't know who gets to judge what is the real thing and what is the fake thing. And so I think a lot of times when we use the word authentic, it's kind of like it's like a sales pitch, you know, like this is the authentic, you know, bibimbap, and it's like, well, but there's all kinds of different bibimbap's, and if this is the one that you like, then who's to tell you it's not authentic, you know? And so it to me, a lot of times, authentic is used in a negative way, because at the same time it's trying to build up one thing, it's trying to dismiss something else. And I don't like when we use that about food, because to me, you know, anything, if I create a weird version of a dish, but it's something that we eat in our household every week and we grow to love it, then that's authentic to us. Right? It may not be authentic to you, but it's authentic to us. So I don't like to use that word because, and then also it's like, you know, here in America, we hear this a lot. It's like, you know, there'll be a Korean restaurant that says, this is authentic Korean food.
Right.
And I go, well, what does that mean? Authentic, because do you mean like Korean barbecue is authentic? Right. And like, but, you know, beef wasn't originally in Korea. So are you saying that real Korean food is Korean barbecue? Because Korean barbecue is actually relatively new in the history of Korea. Korean barbecue is actually somewhat new. So it's like, I don't know, like if you want to say really authentic Korean food, well then that would be like all vegetarian, you know, and it would come from like the mountain, you know, like mountain food, like monk's food, you know. So I don't, when someone says this is authentic Korean food, I'm like, well, maybe to your family it's authentic, but to someone else it could means something totally different. So I try not to use that word when I talk about food.
Oh, thanks so much for explaining that. I think we have a better grasp of what that means. You know, I have to say that, you know, your storytelling, especially going back to Culinary Class Wars, especially during that mission where you made that tteokbokki, thinking so out of the box, amazing, and so many, you know, people who watched. Actually, for me, I felt like, you know, as a Korean American as well, like, our version of tteokbokki may not be what the classic tteokbokki recipe is in Korea, but, you know, we have our own way of doing things. So people are also mentioning that through all of these challenges that they've been very touched by what you say, and for those who have read your works, your books, that you seem to be able to, you have this knack for speaking to the audience, to listeners and readers and watchers of your work. So I don't know, some people call you a philosopher. What do you have to say to that?
I don't know if I'm a philosopher. I don't know. I just, food is my life. So I don't see it just as something in a restaurant. I don't see it as just something on a plate. I really do obsess over it all the time. And so I'm always thinking about it. And to me, I think food is so powerful, and it can connect people, and it can create conversations, and it can bring people together. It's more than just, oh, this tastes good. Like food really, I think, can start conversations. And listen, it's not gonna create world peace, but I think it's a very powerful thing when you can connect with another person through food. And I guess you see it because of the popularity of the show. And so whenever I think about food, it's not just, I'm always thinking on two levels.
Yes.
Yeah, it has to taste good, but I also want to connect emotionally too, because if you don't have that, then it's fine. It's like, well, listen, I can go get a hot dog and it tastes good, then that's great. But if I can create something that tastes good, but also can maybe touch you emotionally,
yes,
I think that's, to me as a chef, like that is the greatest gift of art that there is in this world. Like is to me, it's more. It is so much more beautiful than music or art. But I'm a chef. I'm an artist with things. Like to me, that is my art, and there's no better expression of love than to give someone a dish that makes them feel alive.
Yes, and we feel your passion, we do, and for those of us who have not been obviously able to taste your dishes, I do want to turn that passion and talk about this nonprofit restaurant called Chia, and also about the Lee Initiative, because reading about it, I feel like it's so amazing, but I want more people to know about both of these ventures.
Thank you. So I guess the Lee Initiative is something that I started 8 years ago.
Right.
And it's basically a nonprofit. And we really started, in the beginning, we started it with my partner, who's a woman, and we both wanted to see more women in the restaurant business in America. So we created a mentorship program to help young women grow and just become more empowered and do things. And it's been a great program. We've been doing it for 8 years. And then during COVID, obviously it was huge. Everyone shut down. So we started becoming a relief kitchen. And so we handed out free meals during COVID, but all across the country. So we had 27 different kitchens all around the country handing out free meals every day. And we did over, I think, 2.5 million meals, in about a year and a half. So that was a huge, huge endeavor for us. And now kind of our new project is to turn to Chia, which is basically, kind of a project from Lee Initiative. And it's going to be a Korean restaurant in Washington, D.C. But part of the mission is also to figure out how we can create solutions for restaurants to be more sustainable. So this year, we're going to go zero plastic and zero gas, so all clean energy. And then we're going to reduce waste by 50% in the restaurant. So those are the three things that we're trying to accomplish this year as we start this restaurant. So it sounds simple, but it's a really big thing to get rid of all plastic in your restaurant. So
I'm sure, yes.
Yeah, and we're trying to figure out, so we'll not only will we do that, but we're going to record all the data, tell exactly how much it costs, tell you what works, what doesn't work, and then we will publish it for free so anyone can download it and then say, if you want to do a similar thing in your restaurant, here's how we did it, here's a blueprint, and if you want to try it in your restaurant, you already have a guide of how to do it.
Oh, thanks for explaining that so thoroughly. So hopefully the restaurant industry will really, really, be able to pick out the key points of this kind of study, it seems, as well. Edward, let me ask you this. We obviously were stationed in Busan, and we have listeners from all around the world. But, if we were to give you a keyword, okay. I'm so curious as to what kind of recipe you might be able to whip up, at least in theory. So the keyword I'm going to give you is Busan. So I'm keeping it broad. But what would you create for us Busanites here?
So there's two things.
Okay.
So I don't think this dish is from Busan. But when I went to Busan about 12 years ago.
Okay.
And I had aguchim for the first time.
Aguchim, yes.
Really spicy stew. But I don't think it's originally from Busan. But it'd be because of the fish, it was near the fish market, and
yes.
It was so spicy. I kept taking one bite, and I would drink a whole glass of water and take another bite. And the lady who owned the store was laughing at me because I could. It was so good, I couldn't stop eating it. But I kept asking for more water because it was so spicy. And so I love that dish. And I would, I love to take a dish like that and then try to keep the identity of the dish.
Yes.
But make it a little more, I guess, fusion. Make it a little more, Americanized. So I think it would be cool to take that, and make it into something like a maybe a deep fried fish. Put it over some pasta and have like a nice, really spicy sauce over it. I would have to go in the kitchen and whip it up. But I remember just loving the flavors and the vegetables and everything. But I would make it a little less spicy.
I love that idea. And of the hundreds of questions that are coming in for us, I'm just going to pick two from our listeners right now. Jade wants to know, I'll read it in Korean and translate. 너무 귀여운 따님 계시던데 어떤 음식을 좋아하는지 궁금해요. So this might be a little personal, and you don't have to answer if you don't want to, but people are curious about your daughter, Arden Rose, right? If I'm not mistaken. And what is her favorite dish? Is there something that she really enjoys?
Yes, she loves jjajangmyeon. It's her favorite food, and I have to make it. And my thing is so listen, we're all busy parents, so sometimes I cheat and I buy, it is. You buy the packet and then you microwave the sauce.
Yeah,
it's good. But then sometimes I make it from scratch.
Oh.
On beef. And now, when she was younger, she was fine. Now she's old. She's 11 now. So she knows the difference.
Oh.
So if I try and cheat now, she goes, you have to make it from scratch. Because I know you just made this in the microwave.
It's not that instant jjajangmyeon, right?
Yeah, she doesn't want the instant anymore, which is good because I'm raising a gourmet. That was tough on me because now I can't cheat anymore and use the instant. I have to make it from scratch all the time.
Wow.
But she loves jjajangmyeon. And I do too. So it's something that it's so funny that we have this thing together. And she, we probably eat it once a week.
Wow. That's pretty often.
No, she loves it.
Yes. And our next question is from Tommy, who says, I wonder what your healing food is when you're feeling sick or just not in a good mood. What do you turn to, Edward, is what he's asking.
Oh, gosh.
What's your soul food? Yes.
If I'm feeling sick, I always want something spicy.
Oh, spicy.
Because usually when I'm sick, I can't eat a lot. But I don't know, for some reason, like spicy things are I cannot, it makes me feel good and it makes me sweat. Anything that's really spicy. But honestly, I'll make, again, it's terrible to say as a chef, but if I'm sick, I don't have any energy. So I'll make, what is it? Like noguri? Like instant.
ramen?
Yeah. But then I put my own stuff in, so I use that. But then I put my own, like I add extra gochujang, and I'll add egg, and I'll put my own vegetables in there. And then I like to add a little vinegar to it too.
Vinegar, yes.
Yeah, I like to make just a little bit more vinegar in there, and then I put a lot of sesame seeds.
Sesame seeds. Oh, interesting.
Yeah, like a lot. Like it's just covering the whole thing, and then I eat that. That's my if I'm not feeling good.
Yes. And so as we're getting ready, unfortunately, to wrap up our interview with you, do you have anything on the horizon, any other works that people are wondering about for more books? What do you have in the pipeline? We're so curious about what you have planned.
We have to open the Shia restaurant. So if you're ever in the U.S. or in Washington, D.C., come. But I like to do one thing at a time. So for now, we actually opened the restaurant in 2 weeks. Oh. So we'll be very busy with that for at least, a couple of months. And then, I hope to go to, now that I have this very, very special relationship with Korea.
Yes.
I hope to be back and do more things in Korea and just, it's very special to me to be able to have a connection to Korea. So I want to come back often and do some work and just meet people too.
Yes. Well, you know what? We open you and welcome you with open arms, open invitation when you're in Busan. Yes. Hopefully we can see you in person. But thank you so much for your time. And then, of course, thoroughly enjoyed by all our viewers and listeners. Thank you so much, Chef Edward Lee.
Thank you. 감사합니다.
네. This was our special interview with the chef himself, Edward Lee.
Get your local up-to-date news from Korea and abroad right here on Morning Wave in Busan with Catherine. Stay tuned.
Right, so it's time for Showbiz Buzz. We have our other star here. Yes, Michael! Michael's here.
I was listening to the interview outside and I was like so excited. Now I get to know one of Chef Edward's secret.
Yes,
noguri and
계란. And lots of sesame seeds. 참깨.
I mean, it's so much food. So many names of foods that I heard just this morning.
Yes.
It makes me so hungry.
So inspired. Hey, I know we only have a few minutes.
Yes.
But
I just want to say hi.
But no. Next week PD님 우리 시간 더 줄 거죠. 우리 감독님.
저 너무 즐거웠어요, 진짜.
너무 하면서도 계속
want to say hi out there. Hello, wavers out there.
I know, 죄송했어요. So what's the top news you want to share with our listeners?
Top news. I have to pick one. So I was like looking through the list, and I think we all agree that BTS, J-Hope, returning from military services, the top news.
Big news.
So J-Hope, a member of the supergroup BTS, was discharged from his 18 months of mandatory military service Thursday, becoming the band's second member to complete his service after the eldest member, Jin. So J-Hope appeared outside the main gate of the 36th Army Infantry Division in Wonju, and Jin was the only member visiting him because, obviously, other members, Suga, RM, Jimin, V, and Jungkook, are performing their military service currently. So as we all know, in South Korea, all able-bodied men are required to serve between 18 and 21 months in the military.
That's right.
So following his discharge, J-Hope is expected to resume individual activities much to the excitement of his fans.
Yes. So that is, of course, major news. We have time for other bits. Yeah. So what other news do you want to share with us?
Oh, right. Oh, that's good. I mean,
don't be sarcastic. No.
Yeah.
So what other
Yeah,
news?
some follow-up news.
Yes.
So we all are aware of what happened to Jesse and, the
that
assault
incident.
case.
Yes. What
and
happened?
unfortunate news for Jessie. Jessie has parted ways with her agency following the fan assault case last week.
Okay.
So she's the rapper-singer, and her contract with her new agency was terminated Friday following the assault case involving a fan who was hit in the face by a man accompanying the artist.
Right.
So last week, Jessie was summoned for questioning regarding the incident, which occurred on the night of September 29th in southern Seoul. The 18-year-old fan claims he was assaulted by a man who was with Jessie at the time. Jessie had signed with DOD, that's the name of the agency, DOD, last month, after her contract with More Vision. It's another agency established by J Park.
That's
in
right.
2022.
They parted ways, and she had just signed with DOD.
She had just signed
and now
it.
terminated.
But now she, and I think her getting discharged was, voluntary. So she went up to the agency first
And said,
and asked, if she could leave and terminate the contract with them. So,
So I guess the timing of it at least seems like there might be some connection to what happened, but we don't want to make assumptions. So we're just telling you the timing of it.
Yes.
What else do we have in the news?
Minnie Jin. Another follow-up news was re-elected as Adore's board director. So I think it's a good news for Minnie Jin. But she still has, I think a couple steps to take in order to take back her former role as CEO of Adore. So she's not yet CEO, but she is still board director. So the re-election took place during the extraordinary shareholders meeting last week with no other agenda items aside from the vote. So the vote was the only thing that took place. Her new term as board director will begin on November 2nd. So just to keep you guys reminded, last month the board actually removed Min from her position as CEO.
That's right.
After her disputes with Hybe. But she ever since then, she's been contesting the decision, insisting she should also be reinstated as CEO. But she is keeping her status as internal director on the company's board. So I think her fight to win back the CEO position will continue.
So that's an ongoing kind of story.
Yes.
And we're giving you updates as they come along.
Yes.
We have time for one short one.
Okay.
Yes.
So what do we have? Okay, I guess we can do everything.
Squeezing it in.
Yeah. Blackpink's Rose.
Rosé.
Okay, sorry about that.
로제거든요. 로즈는 아니에요.
가끔씩
헷갈리시죠?
네, 자 많이 좀 헷갈리네요.
네,
요즘에.
로제예요.
로제죠, 로제.
네.
Blackpink's Rosé dropped a collaborative single with the one and only Bruno Mars.
Which we played today.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Okay,
because there was a song request for that.
Oh, okay.
People are saying it's kind of addictive.
Okay,
The
great
chorus
timing.
of it, yes.
Great timing. So everybody took a listen to it, right?
Yes.
So Rosé of girl group Blackpink released a single titled Apartment, or APT Dot,
Yes.
in collaboration with pop star Bruno Mars on Friday. The song is the first release ahead of her debut full-length album Rosie, which is going to be released on December 6th. Rosé participated in the songwriting for all 12 tracks on the album.
Okay.
And she is making a pretty interesting performances these days. So
Yes.
Underground, the album's lead track, achieved a great success, topping the Billboard Global 200 chart.
Indeed.
And it also reached number 70 on the Hot 100,
Yes.
setting a record for the highest charting song by a female K-pop solo artist.
Ooh.
So last month, she signed a deal with the American record label Atlantic Records for her solo career in the global music scene. So good luck to Rosé.
Indeed. So we squeeze it all in. And we'll have you on for
It's
longer
amazing.
last week.
Oh, we can. So nothing is impossible.
Of course. Of course.
뭐든지 할 수 있어요.
네. So we'll check in with you next week. Thank you, Michael.
Yes, thank you.
All right. And here is Butter by BTS to take us out. Thanks so much for joining us today. Bye, everybody.
Cool shade stunner, yeah, owe it all to my mother. Hot like summer, yeah, I'm making you sweat like that. Break it down. Ooh, when I look in the mirror, I'm not too hard to do. I got the superstar glow, so ooh, do the booty. A side step right left to my beat. I like the moon rock with me, baby. Know that I got the heat. Let me show you 'cause talk is cheap. Side step right left to my beat. Get it, let it roll. Smooth like butter. Pour you in like no other. Don't need no usher to remind me you got it bad. Ain't no other that could sweep you up like a rubber. Straight up, I gotcha, making you fall like that. Break it down. Ooh, when I look in the mirror, I'm at your heart into two. I got the superstar glow, so ooh.